Imagine walking away from your hometown, your friends, even your family, yet not a single person notices you're gone. Days slip into weeks, weeks into months, and still, no calls, no texts, not even a birthday message. You begin to wonder if you ever truly mattered to the people who should have cared most. Then, after years of silence, a message arrives, not filled with warmth or apology, but a demand: come to the wedding. Now the question burns: do you forgive their neglect, or finally take your revenge? Growing up, I was always the shadow in my own family. My siblings were celebrated for every milestone, no matter how small, while my achievements went unnoticed. When they succeeded, there were cheers, hugs, and family dinners. When I tried, my efforts were brushed aside, as though they carried no weight. Even my struggles, times when I needed help most, were dismissed with cold indifference. After years of hoping things would change, I finally accepted the painful truth: nothing ever would. My place in the family had been decided long ago, and it wasn't one of value. Quietly, I began planning my escape. I saved money, packed my belongings in silence, and one morning, I simply left the state. No announcements, no goodbyes. I wanted to see if anyone would notice. At first, I waited nervously, half expecting my phone to ring. A call, a text, some small sign of concern. Days passed, then weeks, and still, nothing. Even my birthday came and went without a word. Holidays arrived with photos of gatherings I wasn't invited to. And that was when the reality hit with crushing clarity: I hadn't just been ignored, I had been invisible all along. Life away from my family started off uncertain, but soon it became the fresh start I never knew I needed. I found a job that gave me stability, made friends who actually cared, and slowly built a sense of independence. Yet the silence from my family never faded. While I was carving out a new life, they carried on with theirs, and I was never included. Social media became the window into their world: smiling faces at gatherings, holidays celebrated, milestones captured in photos. But in all those moments, there was no trace of me. It was as if I had been erased, like I'd never existed. Instead of breaking me, the silence became fuel. It was proof I didn't matter to them, but it also pushed me to grow stronger. I learned to stop craving their validation, to stop measuring my worth through their neglect. For the first time, I stood proud of what I was building on my own. Still, in quiet moments, one thought lingered: if I ever returned, how would they face the person they so easily forgot? Years passed before I finally heard from them. One ordinary evening, my phone buzzed with a message, and for a moment, my heart skipped. Maybe, after all this time, someone cared. But when I opened it, any hope vanished. There was no warmth, no apology, no acknowledgement of the years of silence. Just a blunt demand: you have to come to the wedding. The wedding, of course, was for my sibling, the golden child who had always been adored and celebrated. The irony cut deep. After all the years of being invisible, suddenly my presence was required. Not wanted, not requested, required. Frustration boiled inside me. They hadn't noticed my absence on birthdays or holidays, but now, when appearances mattered, I was expected to play my role. They pulled the usual line: family always shows up. But I knew better. This wasn't about family, it was about image. The demand ripped open old wounds, reminding me of every moment I had been overlooked. Yet, instead of despair, something else stirred inside me. For the first time, I saw clearly: maybe this wasn't their moment of control. Maybe this time, it could be mine. I didn't reply to the message right away. For once, I refused to give them the reaction they expected. Days passed, and soon more messages followed. They accused me of being selfish, ungrateful, even disrespectful. Suddenly, the family that hadn't cared about my existence for years was desperate to pull me back in, yet not out of love. I saw the truth clearly: this wasn't about me at all. It was about the golden child's wedding. Everything had to be perfect, and my absence would create gossip, questions they didn't want to answer. That was the only reason I was suddenly important. For the first time in my life, I held the power. My silence became my strategy. With every unanswered message, I forced them to feel a sliver of what I had endured for years: being ignored, dismissed, invisible. The irony wasn't lost on me. They didn't want me because they missed me, they wanted me because I was a missing piece in their picture-perfect image. And this time, I had no intention of making it easy for them. I weighed my options carefully, refuse and let them squirm, or show up and strip them of the smug satisfaction they expected. Chaos and confrontation felt cheap. I wanted something cleaner, something that would last. So I chose revenge through success. Over the following months I doubled down on myself, working late nights at my job, taking courses to sharpen my skills, and investing in the small details that signal confidence. I updated my wardrobe, practiced a poised walk, and rehearsed calm, measured answers to the questions I knew would come. I met new people who respected me, saved money until I no longer felt beholden, and built routines that reinforced my dignity. I decided that if I attended the wedding, it would be entirely on my terms, arrival time, what I wore, how I engaged. My goal wasn't to cause a scene, it was to shift the focus, to make them confront the reality they chose to ignore. Revenge, I realized, wasn't about punishment but proof I had survived and thrived without them. When I stepped into that reception, their discomfort would be my vindication, and they would finally meet the person they once abandoned, and I would never look back. The wedding day finally arrived, and I walked in with my head high, every step deliberate, every detail carefully chosen. Confidence wasn't just in my clothes, it was in the way I carried myself. The effect was instant. Conversations paused, eyes followed, and whispers rippled through the room. Relatives who hadn't spared me a thought in years suddenly lit up, eager to greet me as if we'd always been close. But the golden child's expression said it all, irritation flickered across their face as the spotlight began to shift. This was supposed to be their perfect day, yet my presence disrupted the carefully curated image. The rest of the family scrambled, putting on false smiles, showering me with questions, pretending they had always cared. I didn't need to expose their lies, their discomfort was enough. I stayed calm, polite, and unshakable, refusing to give them the drama they secretly expected. In that moment, my revenge was complete. I didn't need to argue. My success had already spoken louder than words ever could. In the days after the wedding, the sudden flood of messages was almost laughable. Relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years now wanted to keep in touch, pretending they had always cared. Some even rewrote history, claiming they had always believed I would make something of myself, as if their silence hadn't spoken louder than words all those years. The golden child, however, made their resentment clear. My presence had stolen a piece of their spotlight, and the bitterness clung to every interaction. My parents, on the other hand, shifted tactics entirely. They suddenly acted interested, asking questions about my life, offering shallow praise, trying to stitch together a bond that had been severed long ago. But I saw through it all. Their sudden warmth wasn't love, it was damage control. Years of neglect couldn't be erased by a few late phone calls. I decided then and there that boundaries would remain firm. The wedding hadn't reunited us, it had confirmed the truth. I no longer needed them, and I never would again. Revenge isn't always about shouting or destroying, it's about proving you never needed those who failed you. Walking into that wedding wasn't about appearances, it was about reclaiming power. My family ignored me when I left the state, but when they demanded my presence, I showed up stronger, brighter, and untouchable. Their guilt and discomfort were the justice I never thought I'd see. In the end, I didn't seek their approval, I showed them I was never powerless. Success was my revenge, and it was the sweetest kind.